Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Summer Learning Program Recruitment, Messaging, and Marketing webinar. This webinar is being recorded and your phone line is muted. Please use the Q&A box for any questions. We're going to give people a couple minutes to join us. While we're doing that, we have a couple poll questions if you want to go ahead and respond to that. So it looks like we have some intermediaries, direct service provider, and other. We'll wait one more minute. We have one more poll question for you. Okay, thank you everyone for responding to those questions. We're going to go ahead and get started. So hello again and welcome. My name is Leslie Gabay-Swanson. I'm the Director of Program and Systems Quality here at the National Summer Learning Association. Just a little bit of an overview of our webinar today. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about NSLA and our mission. We'll talk a little bit about recruitment, messaging, and marketing. We'll hear from our guest, Raj Shah, from InPlay, and then we'll have some time for your questions and give you some answers for those. As I mentioned, as we're going along, please type your questions into the Q&A box. We'll either respond in the text box or you'll get a message saying that your question will be asked and answered live. Please try to use the Q&A box and not the chat box. So we go ahead and test that out right now. If you see your Q&A box, if you can type in there the response to this question, what questions are you hoping to have answered from this webinar? So you can go ahead and type that into the Q&A box. It doesn't look like we have any questions right now, but I mean, as we're going along, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A box. If you had any hopes of questions that you wanted to have answered during this webinar, feel free to put those in the Q&A box as we're going along, and we will get to them in our Q&A section. So to get started, I want to tell you a little bit more about NSLA. NSLA is the only national nonprofit exclusively focused on closing the achievement gap by increasing access to high-quality summer learning opportunities. NSLA's goal is to increase nationwide the number of high-quality summer learning programs designed to close the achievement gap. To achieve this goal, NSLA recognizes and disseminates what works, offers expertise and supports for programs and communities, and advocates for summer learning as a solution for equity and excellence in education. NSLA's work is driven by the belief that all children and youth deserve high-quality summer learning experiences that will help them succeed in college, career, and life. Core to our work is the recognition that high-quality summer learning works. High-quality summer learning programs have been shown to improve reading and math skills, school attachment, motivation, and relationships with adults and peers. So you'll often hear us say that summer matters. So why do we think that summer matters? Summer provides youth extensive opportunities for growth and learning that may not be possible during the school year due to various constraints. It provides support for working families who need safe, healthy places and activities for their kids when school is not in session. It also helps as a transition period between grades, especially for our very young kids who are just entering school and need to get used to the routine of being in a structured program. It helps with students who are transitioning into middle school or high school, and for students who have just graduated high school but need that extra support to make sure they complete that transition to college. It offers significant opportunities for programs and communities to explore new partnerships they might not have thought of before or had time to pursue. And finally, without some of the constraints of the school year, it can be a time for innovation and experimentation for both youth and programs. So one of the ways that NSLA helps support communities increasing the number of high-quality summer learning opportunities is through our system building work. And we approach our system building work in 3 phases. The first phase is around assessment. During this phase, we help communities to conduct a community assessment of the landscape of summer programs. We help them prepare and complete and prepare a self-assessment of where they are in their summer learning system building. During the second phase, we do some strategic planning with them and help them figure out where they are and where they want to go, and put together an action plan for improving and addressing gaps in their summer learning system. And the final phase is around capacity building. This is where we provide training and technical assistance to help them in achieving their goals and their action plan. One of the tools that NSLA has developed to help with the system building work is our community indicators of effective summer learning systems. These are indicators that we've identified as being key things leading to an effective summer learning system. There are 39 indicators in 6 domains, and you'll see the 6 domains on the screen. Shared vision and community-wide coordination, engaged leadership, data management systems, continuous quality improvement, sustainable resources, and marketing and communication. I want to point out a few of the indicators under that marketing and communications domain that are particularly relevant to our conversation today. The first is recruitment and enrollment. In this indicator, we look to see that there are community-wide strategies to drive recruitment and enrollment in the majority of programs across the community. The second indicator you see there, centralized program information. This is where we look to see that a community has a centralized resource with current information on a majority of the available programs and opportunities. And the last one I'll point out is collaborative marketing. This is where we look to see that providers are knowledgeable about the majority of the opportunities within the community and can make referrals to them. So we think these indicators in particular are really important for our communities to think about and put together a plan of action to address those. So why focus on recruitment, messaging, and marketing? There are many things that go into planning a high-quality summer program. There's staff to hire and train, curriculum to select. So why focus on these particular items? Research shows that children who attend high-quality programs consistently show gains in reading and math. But for them to even get there, they have to sign up for a program and show up. Many parents and students are not used to thinking of summertime as a time for learning. Even if parents believe that summer learning loss is real, they might not see the urgency in addressing it. Voluntary summer learning programs have to compete with many other programs and activities for the attention of parents. Unlike the school year, voluntary programs require that parents and students choose to attend. And school districts must overcome the negative perceptions of traditional summer school that many parents have, that negative reaction that comes with the term summer school. There are a lot of really great resources out there to help with your recruitment and marketing of your summer programs. The first one I'll point out is a new resource from the Wallace Foundation, the Summer Learning Recruitment Guide. This recruitment guide is based on the experiences of 5 urban school districts and their partners that were part of a national summer learning project. The goal of this project was to explore whether and how large-scale voluntary summer learning programs offered by school districts can help improve educational outcomes. It was the largest study that's kind of ever conducted, funded by the Wallace Foundation and written by the Cosby Marketing Communication. So in this guide, and I'll go through a couple of key points of there, there are lots of keys and tools and resources to help you in your recruitment plan. The guide includes 8 key steps to a successful summer learning recruitment. I'm going to go touch on just a few of these. The first is understand your audience. Learning what parents think about summer learning programs and what they think about your summer learning program is important. The more you know about what's important to them, the more successful you'll be at getting them to register. So there are different approaches that you can use to gather those insights: focus groups, one-on-one interviews, guided discussions. And you want to find out, what do parents think about your program? What do they want your program to offer? What do their children think of your program? And what are some of the key details that they'll need to make a decision to sign their child up for your program? Things like the hours, transportation available, supervision, meals. And also think about and find out about what are some of the barriers that can get in the way of registration. It could be logistics, such as hours of registration or transportation, or it could be your brand. What other parents or people are saying about your program, figuring out what your reputation is in the community. The next key I'll point out is to create engaging messaging. Good messaging is important, but it can be challenging. It's important not only for recruitment, but for engaging decision makers and making summer learning a priority. So you want to use these 3 questions in crafting your key message, keeping it brief while still communicating the value of your program. And the guide includes some of these, a messaging map that can help you guide you through this process of creating your message. Parents are going to need to know what your program offers that they could not find at home. And you're going to want to emphasize that district teachers are leading academics, that you have trained professionals leading enrichment activities. In your messaging, you want to stress a mix of academics and fun. We also find that parents are motivated by aspirational messaging, so make it clear that your program helps students get ready for that next grade. You want to be careful about the wording choices that you use. We found that the word free is not popular with parents because it's associated with a lack of quality. No cost is better. Also, the term apply is unpopular. Parents often feel that it sounds judging, like you're judging them or their child. Using terms like register or sign up are more neutral. The last key I'll point out is make your outreach consistent and assertive. You don't want to neglect the time between the end of your registration and the first day of your summer learning program. It's a crucial time to build a connection with parents and with students. One communication outreach about your program is probably not going to be enough. Backpack messages will not always do the trick. They often get lost or not delivered. Oftentimes there are too many and they're overwhelming for parents. So your goal should be to be consistent and assertive, to have at least 3 outreach touches using at least 2 different methods, so that your outreach is enough to get through to parents without being overwhelming. So you can see more of those key steps. I only went through 3 of those key steps today, but there's more in the recruitment guide that is on the Wallace Foundation website in their Knowledge Center, the Summer Learning Recruitment Guide section. It's available both in PDF form and as an interactive website. And in there you'll see some areas around getting started, developing your strategy, creating your game plan, and then a section with all kinds of resources, scripts, templates you can use for postcards, letters to parents, calls to parents, things like that. So it's a really great resource that I highly recommend that you check out. Next, I'd like to introduce our partner, InPlay. We first started hearing about InPlay about 2 years ago when presenters for our New Vision for Summer School Network and our annual conference sessions were talking about how InPlay's new online platform has helped them solve the problem of how to promote their summer programs. Then we learned that InPlay did a lot of the groundwork for facilitating a landscape assessment that we did as part of our system building work in Oakland, California. There are a lot of online activity directories out there, but we feel InPlay stands out for its mission and innovative approaches to helping disadvantaged families access summer learning programs. We feel like this really aligns with the work that we do here at NSLA. So next you heard from Raj Shah, the CEO of InPlay, about how they are partnering with multiple cities to give all kids greater access to summer opportunities for educational and career success. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to you, Raj.
Thank you, Leslie. Hi, everybody. It's great to be able to partner with NSLA to serve the summer learning community. I'm only going to take 25 minutes, and I'll share a bunch of stories and our experiences. Then I'll respond to your questions at the end. So let me start first with a quick introduction on how InPlay got started, followed by what we see being tried to close the opportunity gap for summer learning. And then I'll share our journey to develop InPlay's solution. So just a little bit about myself. You can see that I'm a dad of 2 boys. I worked in the US Congress and then got a degree from Harvard to work on public-private partnerships and technology development for Maine and Massachusetts. Subsequently, I worked in management consulting for A.T. Kearney and got elected to a school board where I've been working 13 years to close the achievement gap from the inside out. Well, in my day work, I actually also worked as a COO of an after-school program that taught youth entrepreneurship. And I'd often, I always commuted by train, and I was often accompanied by a next door neighbor who attended a high school, a charter high school close by. Well, one day he stopped getting on the train. So I tracked him down later and I said, "Hey, Tomas, I haven't seen you on the train for a while. What's going on?" And he said, "Yeah, school's not for me. I just want to go out and start working and earn some money." So I said, "Oh, Tomas, it's really important for you to stay in school, at least finish high school." And he said, "Yeah, I'll get a GED someday, but I already got a job. I'm working at San Francisco Airport in baggage handling, earning $14 an hour." Well, I couldn't convince him to go back to school. And unfortunately, 2 months later, his younger brother also dropped out of high school and joined him in baggage handling. This time I contacted the mother and I said, "Is there anything I can do to help? They're great boys. They were going to good schools. Is there anything I can do to convince them to stay in school?" And she said, I know. I've tried to convince them also, but they won't listen to me. But, I've got Elena. She's my second grade daughter. She takes the bus home from school, and then she has to wait at home until I finish cleaning houses and get home at 6. I have high hopes for her. Can you help me find an after-school program for her so she doesn't have to sit home alone? So I thought, sure, I'm pretty resourceful. I ought to be able to find something. Well, I don't know how many of you are parents, but this was my first foray in trying to find out-of-school time programs. And I really experienced firsthand what a fragmented market this is. But nevertheless, I dug high and low. I talked to other people, and I came up with a list. And when I gave the mother the list, she said, "Yeah, this program at the school, that would have been great. I'm on the waiting list, but I haven't been called. This one at the local community center would also have been good, but I visited it and I just don't feel comfortable because there's strange men walking around and I wouldn't want to have my daughter there. And this one's too far, this one's too expensive." One by one, she ruled them out. And this was incredibly frustrating to me. I mean, there were probably more programs out there that I couldn't find. And if we had made it easier to discover programs, perhaps she could have found something earlier in order to get Elena registered. So I wondered, what if we could build a technology tool to help parents find local and affordable programs? And what if they were led by a nonprofit that had an explicit mission to help disadvantaged families? So that's what we started. In Play is a nonprofit, and our solution is for families and school counselors that struggle to find local programs. Our service is like a Yelp for summer camps and scholarships. Unlike other online directories, we have services to boost access for low-income families and work with districts to expand availability of programs. We believe, as you can see from our mission, that every child has a God-given talent or interest that they can discover if only we give them opportunities to explore and try things out. As you can probably tell, we bring a strong equity lens to our work. We care about the 49% who don't get to participate. For this reason, you shouldn't view InPlay as just a technology vendor. We care about building community. I'm going to guess that many of you worked in education or youth development and cared a lot about serving the kids in your program. But now you're here on this webinar because you looked out and saw a lot more need in your community. We come alongside cities to build citywide systems of support for summer learning to serve more kids. By helping the whole community to work together, fewer kids will be left behind. Now you're thinking community building is hard work and a big responsibility. Let me share how we developed a solution to make it a lot easier. So let's start by talking about this out of school time mess that we're all working in. I've talked to dozens of city and school district officials around the country, And I'll share what they're doing to support out-of-school time. So here are some of the trends and conditions that we believe are shaping this out-of-school time learning ecosystem. First, we're changing what we teach and how we teach, both in school and out of school. Everybody's focused on mastery of the Common Core and teaching in new ways that include, hands-on learning, experiential learning, maker spaces, blended learning. But we're also hearing parents talk about their feeling of rising economic anxiety. With artificial intelligence and automation, there's just a lot of insecurity out there. And when they think about the future for their kids, they also see how it's harder to get into college. And they have a general fear of having them fall behind. Overall, there's just a concern that doing well in academics simply isn't enough. And so, beyond the educational imperative, there's also the economic imperative. With rising costs of living, we see that 70% of moms are working. So of course, they need a safe and engaging place to put their kids. There's also a push to address racial disparities. We know that 80% of low-income kids, primarily kids of color, don't participate in out-of-school time learning. And schools and funders are pushing program quality. Whether you want to measure it by academic outcomes, participation in continuous quality improvement, or other standards. So as a result, we've heard that districts and cities take on similar goals and challenges. They, of course, want to try and increase all students to participate in out-of-school time programs. They also want to look at existing enrichment programs and blend in academic skill building in order to try and boost academic scores. And of course, they want to help identify quality programs and help them scale. So here's what we see them do to try and implement and achieve these goals. First, they're trying to promote the importance of out-of-school time. Some of you may have participated in the Summer Matters campaign these past few years. They also try to produce either paper or online activity directories to make it easier so that parents can go to one single site to find all the existing local programs. They also want to prioritize and give preference to the low-income students in their cities and school districts because they want to get the biggest bang for the buck, and these students often need it the most. In order to do that, they also run programs on site using either their own staff or recruiting other third parties. And then they try and form out-of-school time coordinating bodies so we can try to be more efficient in deploying our limited program resources. But each of these practices have their own challenges and limitations. We may promote the importance of out-of-school time, but when you talk to parents, they say, yeah, I know summer learning is important and after school is important, but my problem is finding the programs and just signing up. I have to learn about things through word of mouth. When districts and cities take on producing activity directories, everything starts off well, but then they find that it's very difficult and expensive to keep the data, the program data current. And then when you try and prioritize low-income students, well, it's often hard to get them to respond, and getting signed authorization forms back is like pulling teeth. Running programs on site is great. They're usually high quality, but they tend to only serve a small sliver of the students, often just less than 10% of the student body. And when you do form out-of-school time coordinating bodies, it's, after the kickoff, then it's a real slog to try to engage and retain members. So when we interview these officials, then they'll say, I really wish there was something better out there, and here's what I really wish existed. So what's needed? Well, they would like to see a city-wide platform that consolidates government programs, nonprofits, for-profits, all providers on a single site. And it should be a single resource site that's free, that everybody can point families to in order to find programs. And let's make sure that the program data on the site is current. There's got to be a cost-effective way of doing that. And then you want to make sure that it's really accessible. So it's mobile friendly, and that you can, if you're not an English speaker, you can read it in Spanish, in Chinese, in Vietnamese, all languages. And you also want to make it accessible for low-income families, families who have special needs, and make it all really easy to find. And then from the policy perspective, they want to be able to identify areas that lack programs. Basically, you want to find out who's doing what where in their city or school district. And once we identify areas that are underserved, let's try and fill them. And all of this has to be in an affordable cost model so it can be sustainable long-term and not die on the vine. So we took all this feedback and we've used it to inform the design of in-play service. So now let me show you what in-play has done. We look at this ecosystem, and what we're trying to do is build the connective tissue that will connect all the major stakeholders, the school districts and cities, providers, families, and the funders. And we do it through 4 major ways. One, we do offer an easy-to-use activity directory. We take care of doing all the program data collection and ingestion. And then we actually have a service that matches students with financial aid that doesn't require that they fill out financial aid forms or provide proof of income. And then lastly, we have analytic reports and maps that provide visibility on where there's service coverage areas and where there aren't, and where you need to fill them with programs. So I'm going to go into each one of these 4 in detail and show you how we kind of arrived at this. First, we try to, we are constantly iterating on our user interface to make it as easy as possible for families to find local and affordable programs. We started by interviewing hundreds of parents and asking them, how do you go out to find and register for after school and summer camps? And we built a archetypical user model that kind of tells us how do parents search, vet, and then coordinate signups with their spouse and other families. So you can see the needs here. You can search by age, by price, by type of activity, by location, dates. And then also we put it, front and center. If you're looking for deals, which include free programs and those that offer scholarships, they can click on deals. And if you have kids with special needs or your child's an English language learner, they can click on those. We list the free stuff and everything in a city so that it's all in one place and parents can trust the site. Next, as I said, we offload the data collection from school districts and cities. And from this screenshot, hopefully you can see, like under this TAP class, look at the age levels here. We go into great detail, a lot of granular detail, again, so that you can see that we give parents the most relevant information. And this is where most activity directories fall down. They can't keep the program data current, listings become stale, and then parents stop coming back. Out of school time is just particularly complex. We've talked with many data experts, and they have looked at out of school time data and decided that it's very hard to model and try to automate the collection of it. But we have a team and an efficient process, so we actually update our program data once a month. We gather all the info so that parents can find relevant programs that, again, match their schedules and budgets. The third area that we've really invested in is around trying to connect families with financial aid. This all started when some providers and foundations told us that they have scholarships and set aside camp spots, but couldn't find eligible families. It's incredible. A lot of those scholarships just went unused. We learned that even if a parent took out an application form, it often never got submitted. And on the flip side, when we talked to low-income families, they shared that frankly, finding and applying for these financial aid opportunities and collecting all the necessary income documents, it's tiring and frankly degrading. They have to do it for all their kids multiple times each year, and a lot of the times they get declined. So it's understandable why they just give up. So we went to the superintendent of Fremont Unified School District, and we put this problem on the table. We've got providers with scholarships, families who use them, but the process of getting them connected is really cumbersome. How can we make this more efficient and take the friction out of the process? And so we put our heads together and came up with this idea, and you can see the screenshot on the right. When parents apply for free and reduced price meals, they have to submit an application and provide some proof of income. But when the district sends a letter of approval back to the families, they included a copy of this flyer back to the families. And as you can see, it simply asks, do you need financial help for after-school programs? If they do, then there are 3 steps. Take out your phone, take a picture of the district's approval letter, and text it back to us. And then we text back to them a list of all the local providers that are offering financial assistance, and we'd love to give them a free spot or a scholarship. So that we've piloted it in a few districts, but there was something else interesting that we learned along the way. Providers confided that oftentimes a huge chunk of their camp seats actually went unsold, unused. And when they started summer camps or the after-school program, they were like flying, like an airplane flying with empty seats. And these providers told us that they'd be willing to give away a lot of the seats as scholarships if they could simply find eligible kids. So that's what the scholarship matching service does. We're taking the friction out of the whole process. Finally, we do provide all of our partner cities and districts with analytical reports that help them see who's doing what where. And if there are areas that simply don't have many programs, we call them program deserts. So in this example, you can see if you had a 5-year-old kindergartner in Oakland this past summer, there were 126 summer camps if price was no object. But if the kindergartner is from a low-income family, there are only 1/3 the number of options that are free or low cost that they can afford. So when we are able to take this data and map it out and provide other analytics, then they're able to make smart, strategic decisions on how to deploy the limited resources. Well, we've made a lot of progress since we launched this 3 years ago. We've got some big cities, San Jose, Oakland, Fremont, and we also launched in Fresno last year because we wanted to get a sense of what it's like to serve family communities in rural areas. Well, in all the cities that we've launched, we've gotten great traction. First, both the providers and the families tell us how much they love having a one-stop shop. And we see it in the data. 1 in 4 families use the site to find programs for their kids. There was a surprise discovery that I'll share, which is that almost 1/3 of the families in the district, a 1/3 of the families that came to our site were actually referred by teachers, social workers, and counselors. These counselors were coming alongside families and saying, hey, if you haven't figured out your summer plans, let's look at this thing called In Play. and find one that works for your family. So, we're very excited about the traction that we've been getting. And, so that's our journey these past 3 years working in multiple cities. I've shared our experiences, learnings, and insights. Sometimes we also hear from others that share with us how this has helped them on a strategic level. So, some of you may know Julie McCalmont, who is at Oakland Unified. Julie runs a pretty large summer learning program with 6,000 students, and it serves about 1 out of 6 students in Oakland Unified. But she also cared about the other 80% or so of students that weren't in her programs, and that's why she partnered with us. And you can see the other parent testimonials. They just think it's so easy to use. And again, with Arisha, the last parent, we took a lot of time out of, we took a lot of the friction out of the financial aid process. So often we are asked, okay, so what's it like to partner with InPlay? So next, I'll do a quick overview of the key benefits and responsibilities. If you were interested in partnering with InPlay, of course, you'd get the mobile-friendly activity directory. You'd have us collect all your program data year-round. And so I need to emphasize that we don't just collect summer, but we also collect fall and spring after-school programs. We also provide some customization, so you can brand your summer learning initiative. We provide you with marketing collateral. You get our scholarship matching service, as well as landscape reports and maps. And then most importantly, you'd be joining a group of other cities where we all learn from each other. And, I just have to tell you, a lot of our best ideas came from talking with other cities and hearing the needs that they had. So we are able to keep the internal organizational learning high and also costs low by spreading it across multiple cities. So the responsibilities for each partner are pretty simple. One, if we launch in your city, we just ask that you help promote the activity directory to families in whatever marketing channels you use. And then presumably if you're an established summer coalition, just please convene your summer learning stakeholders and share the data that we're able to provide you. And then we do ask that you help fund the initial startup runway for us, because we need to build brand awareness, build traction. Then after 2 years, it's important to know that we actually try to make this financially self-sustaining by charging providers a fee that's akin to what they currently pay for their other marketing work. So they're very used to paying for marketing, and this is just another channel for them. But the accumulated fees actually would fund the direct operating costs for sustaining this long term. So, because we're a partner with the National Summer Learning Association, we want to offer a 25% discount for all of you that have been referred to here to this webinar and that are willing to join in 2018. So if you want to learn more, contact me, and I'm happy to share more of our findings and experiences. As I said, we're always interested in sharing and learning from other cities, even if they don't want to contract with us. If you want to share your situation, I'm happy to share my thoughts and recommendations. And for those who are interested in engaging InPlay's shared service, we have capacity to add 20 more cities for next year. And now probably we have 8 spots remaining, depending on district size. So at this point, I'm happy to take any questions you may have. So I'll turn it back to you, Leslie.
Great, thanks, Rod. I know that this is a really great resource that is really helping families to identify those programs that will be the best fit for their child. So at this time, we're going to take questions from our audience. If you have any questions for Rod or myself, you can go ahead and type those in the Q&A box. While we're waiting to see if there any questions, Rod, I wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about more in the cities that you're operating in, who sponsors the in-place service?
Sure. Well, it's really a kind of a give or get fundraising initiative. We often see that cities, in a combination of cities, counties, and foundations, jointly fund it. But they like to see school districts put some skin in the game, since the schools are actually a major beneficiary of summer learning. So, yeah, we see a combination of funders. But what attracts them is that this is a one-time investment, and then the service would be financially self-sustaining. So again, after 2 years, we just charge a fee to providers, and that covers the direct operating costs of keeping it running in a city.
Okay, thank you. I have a question next for our participants. If you can put your responses in the Q&A box as well. I'm wondering if any of you have a good picture of who's providing summer programs in your district, where they are, and kind of how you're addressing that in your own community. If you have a response to that question or a question of your own, go ahead and type that in the Q&A box. Rod, can you talk a little bit more about how you keep the program listings up to date?
Sure. We have a team that actually first starts by collecting the initial program information. So when we first start out, cities and school districts often run summer camp fairs. And so we'll ask for a list of all the providers who tabled at those fairs. And that just becomes our base list. But then we go out and scour other resources to try and continue to build up that list. And we do that very quickly. And then, as I said, we'll contact the providers. They'll either send us the information, or we just actually go to their website and copy the stuff off their website. But now, once we actually get traction in a city, we now see that many providers proactively send their updated program information to us because they want to get their listings out and recruit as many families as early as possible.
Great, thank you. And so we have another question. So you mentioned that school districts are responsible for promoting the service. How have you seen various school districts do that?
Well, yeah, school districts have different capacity for marketing and sharing out information. So we just ask that they do what they currently do. So if they put announcements in e-newsletters, emails, or via Peach Jar, we just ask them to do that. And we provide them with the marketing collateral and even some draft copy that they can use. We also found that teachers and school counselors were using it to work with students and parents. So as I said, that was a huge chunk of traffic that was being driven to our site. So besides promoting it externally to families, we also ask that they promote it internally to their teachers and parents resource specialists, because the staff also get very excited about having this tool that they can use to help families.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Tiana, she says she is from Charlotte, North Carolina. She's the Charlotte Next coordinator for MECED. Charlotte Next is focused on providing quality out-of-school time for students in Charlotte. We are currently working on updating our online database called the Locator, very similar to your online database, and my team aspires to have our Locator look like in play in the future. Our Locator is still fairly new, so what suggestions, recommendations would you have for intermediaries like MECED to get our Locator like the in-play database?
Well, I'm not sure if you're talking about the search interface, the mobile interface, or if you're talking about the data structure. But I guess my overall recommendation is you have to go out and sit with families and see how they use the site, and that's where you can start seeing where they wish that there was some additional information that would help them make the decision, or where they may just be missing some buttons that if they simply push that would open up additional information that would help them. This past spring, we did user testing every 2 weeks. We actually went into Oakland and talked with and sat in libraries and other nonprofits, and parents would just work with us for 15, 20 minutes, and we got to see how they use the site. So it's based on, real live field testing that has enabled us to figure out what are the things that are most valuable to families, how do they think, and how can we best complement their motivations and inclinations about how to find programs. But if you have some specific questions, let's definitely connect and we can talk offline about it.
Thank you. So I'll see if we have any more questions while I fill out that final question. Rod, did you have any final comments you wanted to share?
I do. Thank you, Leslie. So before we close, let me just offer some final thoughts. In the beginning, I shared a story about Elena, and I think about how she saw her 2 older brothers drop out of high school. Well, there are 24 million girls and boys like her nationwide that need our help. Sitting home alone, Elena doesn't know about her true potential or the world of opportunities outside that await her. Let's open that door. Thank you for all that each of you do to give kids enriching summers. I'll just say that if you want a demo, if you have other questions, please contact us if you're interested in learning more. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Rod. So as Rod mentioned, we're happy to set up some time to talk about your individual needs. Feel free to email myself or call. My number's on the screen there to set up a free consultative phone call with Rod and myself. We can talk about your individual community or program needs. We'd also ask you to complete a short program needs survey. You see the links there to tell us more about your program and community summer learning needs. And all this information will be included in a follow-up email that I will send out. Finally, I want to wrap up with just a few announcements. National Summer Learning Day is July 12th this year. National Summer Learning Day is a national advocacy day aimed at elevating the importance of keeping kids learning safe and healthy every summer, so all students return to school ready to soar. We have an official day, as you see, as I said, on July 12th, but National Summer Learning Day can be celebrated at any time during the summer. We encourage you to hold an event for your kids, for parents, for your local media, elected officials, and get them excited about summer and summer learning. And we ask you to tell us more about your event, post your event on our event tracker that is on our website in our Summer Learning Day section. NSLA's annual conference is coming up in November, the end of this year, November 12th through the 14th. We will be in Kansas City, Missouri this year. You can learn more about our national conference and see some of the sessions from last year. And registration is now open. Our early bird rate of $425 ends next week on May 31st. So be sure to visit our website and sign up early. So this webinar was part of our Common Grounds peer learning group efforts that we do. If we are not part of our Common Grounds group, we invite you to join us around the campfire. You can sign up for our Common Grounds affinity group on our website. We currently have peer learning groups for early literacy, older youth, community system building, and policy. You can use that link on the screen that you see, or you can find more in our Take Action section on our website. Finally, I'll remind you to follow us on Twitter and on Facebook to hear more of the latest updates and announcements that are coming out. We're heading, as I said, we're heading into our busy season of summer and Summer Learning Day. We have a lot of really great new resources that are coming out. So be sure to sign up for on Twitter or Facebook or for our e-newsletter Summer Times, so that you don't miss any of those great new announcements and resources that are coming out. So I want to say thank you again to Rod for joining us and sharing the great resource that is in play. And thank you all for joining us and for your questions. And be sure to reach out to us if you have any questions, if you want to set up a time to talk about your individual summer learning needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie.